Ready? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Online Learning Council Town Hall. We have a great session today on Upick. We have a number of people who are Zooming in, and because it's exam week, we have a number of people that will be watching this session as it's archived. So I want to say welcome again to everyone here. Let me make a couple of announcements first, and then I'll introduce each of the individuals that will be presenting today. The town halls, as you know, are offered every few months across the university to our faculty, staff, and our adjunct faculty as well. The next town hall will be on May 2nd. And it is going to be our research and project presentations. And remember, last year was our very first time having research projects presented. We're very interested in encouraging and promoting the research that faculty are conducting in the area of technology enhanced education and how it's applied to learning and learning outcomes. We're still accepting proposals for panel presentations for that day. So you can send your brief description for presentation to olc at drexel.edu by March 29th. And that session again will be 9:30 to 11 on May 2nd. And then our last town hall for the academic year will be on May 21st, and that will be a Zoom session, and all of our co-chairs will be presenting their work for the year, their goals for the year, their accomplishments for the year, and we always look forward to that time as well. So let's get started today with Upick. We have a number of sessions today. This is like speed dating, although I would never admit if I'd ever personally experienced it. I haven't, so I can say that. But they tell me it's like speed dating. So we have some terrific presenters today. It's a great way for people to learn about new software, new technology that can be utilized and tested in our courses here at the university. The first session that we'll have is Why Choose Labster? We subscribed to Labster this past year. We're very excited that we have Laura Wurspa here, who is Dr. Wurspa. She's a customer success manager as part of the scientific partnership group at Labster. We're delighted to have you here. Thank you so much. We also have a presentation next by Michael Shelmett. Michael is part of our instructional technology team here at Drexel University. He's Director of Instructional Technology. And Michael Shelmett is going to be doing a demonstration on Blackboard Ally, which is assisting us with our ADA compliance. So Michael, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here. We have Ryan Batterina, who's an instructional designer with Drexel University Online. Ryan is going to do a demonstration of VRtifacts Plus, which is our new repository of 500,000 different artifacts that can be utilized in online courses and presentations. So Ryan, welcome, and thank you for being here with us today. We have Marcy Powell with us from Texas today. Marcy is CEO and president of Marcy Powell and Associates, and Marcy is going to be describing 4 ways to enhance your course: AVR, gamification, artificial intelligence, and video. She has a terrific handout, so I know we're looking forward to hearing her presentation. Marcy, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here, and I'm sorry it's cold. And last but very not least is Abigail Kelly, who's a senior instructional designer with Drexel University Online. Abby is going to talk about there's more to a picture than you think. She's a seasoned instructional designer, and we'll have some great tips and suggestions and ideas for improving your online courses as well. So we're going to start. Each presenter has 10 minutes. There's 5 minutes for questions. Raina is going to have a gong, which is a polite gong. And she's going to keep ringing it until the people move. The hardest thing is to get people to move once they sit down. But today we just want to give you a taste and a flavor of these new ideas and expose you to them, and that's the purpose of the whole session. So we're going to get started. So the first 15-minute segment starts now.
Are any of you science majors or instructing for science or?
No.
Okay.
We're just interested. She has to put that on.
No. This is just
I'm talking the mic.
Oh,
you on film.
the mic.
So
All right.
you speaking to people online.
All right.
So you have
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great.
It's actually him, the camera.
All right, so great. So I'm Laura Werpsa from Labster. I am a customer success manager responsible for helping faculty become familiar to our technologies that we have worked with a couple of faculty at Drexel incorporating our simulations, which are gamification laboratory experiences. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do and how we work. So if you have major challenges that you find students come in with a large knowledge gap, they're not prepared for laboratory, they can't really visualize the concepts. You also could be struggling with limited lab space. Maybe your lab space is under reconstruction or you don't have all the instrumentation you need to really provide the sufficient education for students to prepare as they get employment. Sometimes you may find that students are a little disengaged. They're not really proactively learning. They're just sitting in lecture, kind of listening to you go on about a concept that's really important for them. There could also be a case where they just don't feel really prepared for the laboratory experience. They're not reading proactively reading the lab manual, and they have a poor conceptual learning. So what we've done is we've built a virtual simulation that allows people to enter into a lab, prepare the protocols, actually go into the instrumentation and experience it. So I'm just going to play a quick demonstration, which is a video of it.
Science through a highly immersive learning experience. With Labster, you can. Labster offers.
So I'm just going to talk through this. So you're going into the lab, you're actually handling dangerous reactions, you're actually you're having the ability to see what's going on, review the theory, and as you go through the lab, you're actually asked questions about, like, do you understand this concept that we just covered? Do you see how the molecules are interacting with each other, like with the DNA and the protein? So you really get a chance to kind of experience learning at your own pace, which is really important for students nowadays. They want to be able to learn it when it's convenient for them, when they want to be able to, is it working between their professional life, is it working between their student life, if they have student activities that they have to be able to learn. So to be able to prepare and visualize for the lab is really important when you're becoming a nurse, a biological technologist, or even just a chemist or a chemical engineer. So this is an overview of what we have to offer. We're going to have almost over 100 simulations that are web-based by June. That will include ecology. We just released animal physiology is coming out in June, and we also have a number of general chemistry coming out as well. So we have a large, rich catalog that's approaching, and it's very exciting to see that.
So how many different exercises do you have?
So right now we have, let me go into that. So what I'm going to show you now is actually our faculty resource. So these are just some of the general topics that we have for a course. So if you're looking to implement for general biology, we have a number of topics for that. Also, so the general chemistry will have general chemistry 1 and 2. So those topics that are essential for learning capabilities, like what is an atom, periodic tables, how to prep a solution, which can also then be applied to biochemistry. So some of these concepts not only cover your one subject matter in science, but it can also be applied to another. So we have been developing content that is applicable for multiple courses. But what you can do as an instructor is you can find those different questions and actually see, are these students actually learning what they need to learn? So if I go into the general organic chemistry, you can actually select from a range of these different topics And
Green is showing.
Yeah, the screen's not
It
showing
still
that.
has the main.
okay, so the screen's not showing it. Let me see. So it's just showing the main screen then.
Right.
Okay.
Showing main challenges.
It was coming through before, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another example of alternate formats.
Lab technology.
PDF on your phone. You do a lot of like pinch and zoom and move around. You like
Why is this not working today?
it provides an HTML document as an alternate format, and so it just formats to your screen.
Okay.
Zoom, and
So it's still in presenter mode.
it's much easier
Okay.
to read. So again,
Oh, there it goes.
So there we go. But this is, okay, so I guess I'll stick to the slide deck for a bit. All right. Technology. But what you see on your screen is just like an overview of how you can not only use Labster as a supplement, you can also use it as for fully online courses. We have worked with other institutions across the country and even across the world where they're bringing their courses online. So if you need to bring some material online, we've already tested and integrated into Blackboard for ecology courses. We're starting to work with the library liaisons to actually provide help you decide on which simulations are best for you. So these are a number of resources that we can offer through our partnership. The graph here is basically showing that between traditional lecture teaching, use of simulations will help students prepare for the course. One of my favorite slides is actually this one, where you not only see, here you can see how the students feel about themselves after they experience the lab. They feel a lot more confident, so so the students who are in the green line, these are students who came in and they might not have come from strong academic backgrounds in science, but they still wanted to learn, and you should always encourage students to learn science. So they were able to get up to a competitive level that is going to bring them up to speed at a quicker pace because they're able to have the resources to educate themselves. And how they feel about themselves, they actually are outperforming the mid-level performers on how they actually feel on their self-efficacy. So this is just a case study that we've done with McMaster University. So we also will partner with faculty in providing testimonials that are showcased on our website. And they're partnering institutions. For instance, with McMaster, she had over 800 students that were not really engaged or prepared when they came into the lab. So what she found is that after they started doing a couple Labster assignments, they actually had more assignments than they needed to do. So she only assigned 10, and what she found is that they kept doing the assignments, they kept doing other subjects and exploring more about science. So that added to an additional 10 hours of just self-directed learning. And also 98% of the students came into lab more prepared than they had the previous semester. So she used it as a pre-laboratory activity, so a lab prep manual. And also implemented blended learning, flipped classroom principles. And she was also, we always recommend to incorporate it as a grade. The first time, a couple times you integrate it, you can always have it like as an extra credit assignment, or my favorite one is where you have students who say, you're gonna see this content on the exam, you take the scenario that's presented in Labster, and then you flip it on its head. So you say the source of the pollution is different than what the scenario is in the simulation. In the simulation, it's actually like the farm, but you could actually have the water pollution coming from something broken, the wastewater treatment plant, for instance. So you can think about seeing, did these students actually understand the concept and understanding how the data is presented so they can come up with a good conclusion that is realistic and something they would see in real life for employment. So that's pretty much everything. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So this is just in higher education, as in 12, pre-K to 12.
We're
high
starting
schools?
to get some high schools. Mostly our concepts that we have now are for AP biology, and we will have AP chemistry as well. We're partnering with Staten Island Academy, so I'm gonna just pull out the toy that folks at home, I don't know if they can see, but this is a virtual reality headset where Staten Island was basically able to alpha test it for Google because Google has funded our development and converting all our simulations. We aim to become platform agnostic, so that means that not only will you get the web-based, you also get access to the virtual reality. Now, the virtual reality gives you, I hope I can give you the short demo of it so you get to see it. And basically, it gives you another level of immersion that you go in and you feel like you're actually somewhere else. ASU Online has incorporated for their first biology Bachelor's of Science online major, and that partnership is in full swing for cellular and molecular biology. We just started the ecology course last week, and in June we'll have animal physiology. So eventually, but as we continue to build simulations, like we just built our organic introduction to organic chemistry. So that one just got released, and that's a chemistry one. So as we continue to build simulations, these will all get converted onto multiple platforms. So yeah.
Can we see one?
Yes. That is what I want to do. So I'm just gonna pair it up. And you're gonna have to take turns. Okay. All right. I'm gonna hopefully not turn this thing off. Technology has not. Okay. All right. And
If I go into the student
Google.
and we go back to this area,
Oh,
so you can see what the student sees.
I know what's going on. Have to set it up with the web. Just give me a moment.
What they see is this options icon and alternate format.
I know exactly what's going on.
To pick what they want.
I mean, if not, is it possible to just see it on the screen?
Yeah.
And that way maybe they can see it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Too many wires.
Too many wires. Okay. Let's see if I can get it to. Okay. Can you still see my screen? All right. I know what I'm gonna do.
At work, they might not want to read your syllabus or article, and they can plug in their earbuds, they can close their eyes.
I can see exactly why people, the students would spend another 10 hours on something.
Yeah, because you get immersed in it.
Absolutely.
And it helps with the learning.
Absolutely.
So basically, this is our faculty resource page where any faculty member can go and get everything they need to know about what they need to build their curriculum in.
Okay.
And essentially, you have the quiz questions that I talked about that you can download and start to incorporate. If you have clickers in your classroom and you want to see if they're actually doing the assignments, you can always throw the questions into the clicker. That's always fun. And then you have your learning objectives. And if we have collaborators who have partnered with us in building the simulations, you'll see them here. And basically, let's see if it'll load. So this is what you would see when you prompt it. Yeah, that's the point.
Test tubes and everything.
Yeah, so the point of this is actually to teach students about lab safety. So lab safety videos are usually, traditional videos are like 2 hours long that they have to sit through and watch, and they are torturous to watch. Or you have a poor teacher assistant who knows enough but isn't really like certified in OSHA or all these other concerns that you may have. So it does take a little bit of time to load, but once it loads, it plays pretty smoothly. And if you had the other part here is if you're connected into the integration, you would have a click here, and there would be a dashboard. So you would be able to see your grades for that as well. With the Blackboard integration, the grades get automatically pulled in. They're single sign-on, so the students don't need to go anywhere else for accessing the content. So you can actually nicely build your course where you have, for online courses, it's great because you have a summary of the concept, say do the activity, and then you can have a quiz question. So that's one way you can build it.
So when we acquired the subscription for Drexel and our instructional design team have this, so we wanted faculty to just practice and just see what's possible. Because it's sometimes difficult for scientists to understand how you can teach science without being
In a physical environment, exactly. We have right now 2 environmental science courses that are running with our eutrophication and evolution, so they're trying it out. Where's my mouse? There we go. So that's Dr. One. She's kind of like your mini lab assistant. She's a little robot.
You can talk to people who know more about visual accessibility, but having bad captions might actually be worse.
So we also take seriously accessibility. Students' accessibility inclusion is very important for us as well. So we continue to strive to do that.
It's something we're still sort of piloting, but it can be turned on for any course. So any course you're currently.
So this is just a tutorial as to what you're doing. Where is my mouse?
If you have a course from fall quarter, you want to see how accessible is it?
Can't see my mouse today. Yeah, no, it's fine.
So
Probably doesn't
all
like
the
that.
content will, the tool doesn't stay on.
So with these, for example, if you take a biology course, is it an entire course, or is it just a sequence of labs that are incorporated into the course?
So we can have it as a single lab depending on your content. Like if you just want to cover CRISPR, we just released that one. If you want to cover certain series, like we do have curriculums that are predetermined already that we can provide for you. So if you have a course that you're trying to bring online, we can help you. All right.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Did you want to sit here?
Oh, please.
Oh, you can take a chair. You can take a chair.
How are you? Good. So I had a demo, but it was a brief one, so this would be a good review.
Okay, so I'm basically
Do you know
gonna.
each other? Do you know Kyle?
I do not.
Kyle, met her now. Nice to meet you.
So I'm basically going to talk about Blackboard Ally in the context of digital accessibility. So this might be old news to you.
No, it's all good.
Essentially, everyone here at Drexel, faculty, staff, administration, we're all here for the students to succeed. That's our goal. So digital accessibility can benefit everyone. So while it is required by law in certain instances for us to provide accommodations, regardless of that, it's also just the right thing to do to provide accessible content to our students.
Do you need to put that on?
Oh, are you picking me up? Do I need to put it on? We're good? Okay. Okay. Generally, when we're talking about digital accessibility, we're talking about what's called the curb cut effect. So curb cuts were initially put in by law to help benefit certain members of society who couldn't get around as easily. But even though I've never needed one, I benefit from one because I push a stroller around. I've had large luggage. So even though there's these things that were put in place for a specific population who needed access, everyone has benefited. You have a bunch of bags and you're trying to get in the door and you hit the silver button to open the door automatically. It's not there for you for someone with a lot of bags, but it helps you. So in the same way, how does digital accessibility help everyone else? Well, our students come to Drexel and they have a wide variety of abilities. Some students will come in with audio impairments, and that will mean that for videos they'll need to have captions because they won't be able to hear anything that's coming out of there. For visually impaired students, they may need an audio or a braille version of any sort of text document that you have. It also might mean that they just need high contrasting colors. And I have a visual impairment and I wear assistive technology all the time. I just never really think about it. In terms of motor impairments, some students will come and they might find it difficult to use a mouse, and so it's something to just keep in mind as you're developing course content that if this requires a lot of mouse movements and I have a student who has an impairment of that type, how are they navigating around? And also cognitive impairments where students might require 1.5 or 2 times time on a test. We already have things built in the LMS to accommodate those sorts of things. But again, just more things to think about. As an example of low contrast, I find it difficult to read the light gray on the white there. It doesn't really pop. It's hard to read, especially from a distance, whereas when you have high contrasting colors, they stand out a lot more. And so that's just one of the myriad things that Ally will scan for in images and documents to say, do you have high contrasting colors, just because it's, even for an abled person, it might make it difficult to read. Here at Drexel, we're sadly in a more reactive mode than a proactive mode. And basically what happens is a student comes in, they need an accommodation, they work with disability resources and the faculty member, and all the content for the course is made accessible and delivered directly to them. Because of the generally rapid turnaround time that's needed, this usually comes as a high cost, and because the content's only delivered to that student, no one else benefits from all that hard work that's being done. So if we move to a more proactive approach, what we can do is, with something like Blackboard Ally that's already providing alternate formats, that kind of reduces the amount of work we need to do. So if we need to mediate content, anything that's in the course that has an electronic braille version or an audio version, no one else needs to go and do that thing. It's already provided automatically. So maybe we're 50, 60, 70% of the way there. So it reduces the burden of how much we need to provide. Plus, it streamlines the process, and all those things are available to all the students in the course so that everyone can benefit from them. So in order to get to a more fully proactive approach, there's a number of things that are at our disposal. The library reserves team is making sure that any content that's put into the course reserve system is accessible. I believe a lot of the journals they link to are already in that fashion, and if you request a specific scanned document, they'll make sure that it is in an accessible format. DUIT is currently working with the Kaltura, our Kaltura video service, to make sure that there's machine-generated captions that are available. So essentially a button click, it'll generate captions in a number of different languages. It doesn't translate, but whatever language the video was in, it will generate captions for that. And then there's an interface right within the system to be able to edit those on the fly, do find and replace, that sort of thing. It then also provides a transcript when viewing it that is searchable, and a student can click on a word and jump to that part of the video to actually just pick up right from that point. Blackboard Ally, as I mentioned, it provides alternate formats for any content that's uploaded and linked in the course. It doesn't scan everything, so right now it's not currently scanning videos, but with the Kaltura solution, hopefully we're kind of covering that base to a large extent. So any sort of Word documents, PDFs, PowerPoints, it'll have these electronic, braille, audio versions available for students to download and consume. We also have Ally for Websites, which is something that will eventually scan the entirety of the Drexel.edu domain to basically say, what, if any, accessibility issues do we have on our forward-facing website? And they're also working to build those same alternate format hooks in. So if you're posting a Word document on the public-facing website, someone from around the world browsing our website can click on a link and actually get an audio version of that if they prefer to just hear it.
So does our license already cover that for the websites?
We've licensed Ally for websites separately, and so it's two separate products, and we're fully licensed for that, and we're working with University Communications to start rolling that out. They're actually going to start using it to vet websites before they launch to make sure they're launching things with accessibility issues. So in order to move to proactive, it's sort of like this mountain we have to climb, but with the regulations in flux right now, we don't know exactly where the summit is. We don't know where we have to get to. We just know we have to move. We know what direction we need to move in. So in order to get there, we're putting a lot of these things in place that are automatic, that are no extra work for anyone. Push button captions, automatic alternate formats. No extra work is necessary for faculty or staff. We just kind of have these things, and it helps move us towards that goal. So even if you have a course in Learn and you turn on Ally today, regardless of how accessible it is without Ally, it's more accessible because of those alternate formats immediately. So as I mentioned, Blackboard Ally, it provides alternate formats for students. This could be in the form of OCR, optical character recognition on files. So again, if you scan a book or a piece of paper, it's just an image, and someone with a visual impairment isn't able to read that, and so the OCR basically pulls out that text, and then a screen reader can actually read that to the person with the disability. Electronic Braille, so there's electronic Braille readers, so if someone prefers that as a format, they can...
How does that work? How do you read Braille electronically?
So it's funny, the only reference I have is the movie Sneakers, which is an older movie. Essentially, it's like a series of registers where I think it's like a scrolling marquee where the Braille words pop up, so you just kind of rest your fingers on it, and it's like moving your fingers across, and the Braille pops up. And like it's like a special device. Yeah. I should probably get like some images of these things to show it.
Very cool.
But yeah, it's like think of printed Braille and you move your hand across. This is sort of like a scrolling set of dots, like there's for each character they would just pop up and under the fingers. Like a treadmill. Kind of, yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, exactly. And then audio formats, which are much more easy to explain and understand. For faculty, you get access to the number and severity of issues that are with the content. So it'll tell you, hey, this Word document has these issues, and this is like the total score for that document. It also provides you accessibility information. So if it says images in this document don't have alt text and you have no idea what alt text is, it'll explain to you what alt text is and why it's important and how it's helpful. So another example of alternate formats that can help everyone, if you've ever opened up a PDF on your mobile device, you probably did a lot of like pinching and zooming and scrolling around because it's set and you're like moving things around. You can get an HTML version of a PDF, which then formats all the text on the screen, so you just do simple scrolling and be able to go through it much easier, which again is something that we could all benefit from. So again, we want to talk about creating accessible content as we go forward, but I'd actually just like to jump in to Blackboard and show you what this looks like. So you can see that. So this is a course that has Ally turned on, and so basically all you're going to see in the instructor view are these gauges here on the left. You can see all these are red because, as examples, I wanted to make sure I had all the bad stuff up there so you can see the problems. So this Word document, it's saying it's got a 25% accessibility score. It's scanning on WCAG 2.0 AA standards. So I don't know exactly what those are, but those are like the official standards for web accessibility. And one of the things that I believe disability researchers say we're required to follow. So it's scanning for issues with all those things. This is saying here the first issue it sees is this document contains images that are missing a description. So this is a preview of the document on the left. It's showing me the image and it's highlighting it and saying the one image of one that you have in this document doesn't have alt text. So if I don't know what that means, I can click on what this means, and it will tell me what is an image description, and it explains exactly what that is, how it helps people, and what it enhances. It facilitates searching, it provides better context, and it's essential for students with visual impairments.
So if a student with a visual impairment couldn't see this picture, the alt text explains what they would be
Exactly.
seeing.
Like if this was a veterinary course and you're explaining, animals with two different eyes and what that means, the alt text would say image of albino cat with two different eyes illustrating X. And then how to add it. So because this is a Word document, you would say, okay, well, I'm using Office 365. How does that work? And it's providing you instructions right here to say, open up the document, and here's how you get to that to actually add it in. You can then also print those instructions out if you want. There's also this help button here, which if you click on that, it will link you to documentation, but it also has this box here, which allows you to type in a help me please, and that basically opens a ticket with my team, and it'll tell me who you are, it'll tell me what course you were in, it'll tell me the exact piece of content you were working on, and someone actually did this last night, so I know that it works. And so I can zoom in, I can find exactly what you were looking at, and the person last night had a scanned non-OCR PDF file. And so I basically explained you can use Acrobat Professional to do the OCR, to resave the file. You might also be able, because it looks like something that might be in the reserves, work with the library team to get that in your course reserves as well. If we scroll down, here's that same image just embedded in the course, and in this case it's actually saying, you know, you can just type in the alt text here that you want for this to say, here's the alt text. The other thing you can actually do is say, indicate this image is decorative. Anyone with a visual impairment, this is just eye candy. You're not missing anything if you can't see this. If we flag it as decorative, it goes to 100%. We're done. We're good.
So once the course is in Blackboard, loaded in Blackboard, how do they actually find Ally in
So
Blackboard? And is it a matter of just turning it on?
Yes, at this point they need to request that it's turned on, and we can turn it on for any course across the system, whether it's current, whether it's upcoming, or whether it is previously run. So a lot of people are turning it on like their sandbox courses, where then they copy from. And so even though Ally won't be on in their course for the spring quarter, if they knew everything was accessible in here, then at least they know it's accessible there. They're still not giving the students the benefits of the alternate formats, but at least they were using it as a check to make sure that everything was okay to go. The other thing to note is that students aren't seeing these gauges. If I jump into the student preview here, basically, like I said, students only get the alternate formats. So if we go back to this page and we scroll down to this document again, you see there's this options icon that lists alternate formats. And then basically the student would choose what alternate format do they want and then download that and be able to use that. So again, you got a long day at work, you need to read the syllabus, but you don't want to read it on the train ride home. You download the audio version, you plug in your earbuds, you close your eyes, and you listen to the syllabus read to you. So again, even if you don't need to use it, it could benefit you as well. And that's more or less the gist of Ally. Ally's pretty straightforward. It's more of a tool to kind of peel back the mystery of, well, like, what is digital accessibility, and to see, like, oh, this was just the tip of the iceberg. There's actually so much more going on here, and it's kind of changing the way we create content just to make sure it's accessible and to understand those things. So this is more of a sort of a messenger and a helper, I would say.
So how do videos work? Like, of course you can't put a whole alt text describing the entire video, right?
So it doesn't currently scan videos, but when it does, it's going to look at the captions. I believe if you link YouTube videos, it'll scan the captions to make sure the captions are there.
So it has to be from
And-
YouTube. Okay.
And there are standards for captions, like there are ADA standards that say they should run for like 3 to 7 seconds, and they should only have so much text and that sort of thing. So there are standards that they do follow. And yeah, we're hopefully rolling out the automatic captions for Kaltura, which again, if you don't have captions, it will generate them, and then you can update them to make sure that they're accurate, because that's important
So
too.
right now, we contract that out to have somebody.
Right, and I think that's like one of the more expensive things that we do, to have captions generate. Now again, it's still not, captions are super tough thing to work with, because even if you automatically generate them, to have someone go through the whole video and make sure they're accurate, it's still time consuming. But once you have the script, you can probably have like a co-op or someone else do it at a much lower rate than having a professional do it. So. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I came right from the alt text.
Hello there.
I'll show you guys.
Oh, great.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Where are you going? Go ahead.
Hello there, sir. How you doing? Doing good. So I never know when we properly start the next round. So
I think once everybody's been in town.
yeah.
Yeah.
So real quick because my throat is parched.
There you go. Can I put this on your collar for me? Sorry. Thank you very much. Okay. Squeeze that part.
I believe that works. There we go. Okay. Alrighty. So, hello everyone. My name is Ryan Batterina. I am Ryan, yes. I am an instructional designer for Drexel University Online, and today I would like to present to all of you VRtifacts Plus, and sort of a very general and basic how-to guide on how you can import the assets into your course for student teaching. So, before we begin, we're going to have a little what is VRtifacts video, sort of what exactly is VRtifacts from the creators of VRtifacts.
Welcome to VRtifacts, virtual reality learning for the classroom and mobile device, going well beyond the classroom to the smartphone, tablet, and desktop computer. There are some 500,000 learning objects and environments within this repository, a literal bank vault of virtual reality learning at your fingertips. It's all open resource and ready for you to get started now, right inside your LMS. There are 3D models, annotated, animated, and ready for interactive study, lecture discussions, and sharing through your courses on your LMS, email, and social media platforms. You will find 360 panoramas, 360 VR videos, tilt brush artistic environments, and immersive worlds both macro and micro. Search by academic categories and everyday common collections of 3D models. The beauty of the VRtifacts repository is that it is growing with content and curation of the content every day. Objects are keyword searchable. You can even tag items with your own creative keywords to bring more value to the content specific to your needs. This is not about changing the way you teach. It's about augmenting your lectures with application-based learning, engaging minds, interactive discussions, and building curiosity to the world around us. Digital objects allow us to explore our world in a whole new way, like never before. VRtifacts, digital virtual reality learning, here at Drexel.
So that was VRtifacts in a very, very nice and concise way of describing it. So now we're going to talk about how to use it. So in BB Learn, you access it through BB Learn. Pretty much in your typical content week. For right now, we are in week 1. What you do is you go to the build content area, and then right below course link, you have Drexel Online VRtifacts. Click on that, and you will be brought to the VRtifacts landing page, where you have the VRtifacts user interface and where you can see a lot of the basic, a lot of the intro digital assets already on there. So what you see defaultly is many, many 360 videos. You see 360 panoramas, there's a YouTube video here and there. It's a good introduction and a good little base homepage just to get an idea of what VRtifacts has. Pretty much if you want to search for a specific asset, as you can see from the red circle, there is a search function. So you can actually search for specific assets. Pretty much like YouTube videos, type in what you want to search for, such as heart, press enter, and it'll search for everything that is tagged with heart. This does include assets that may not necessarily be a heart itself, but it will have, for all intents and purposes, it'll search for all assets that have heart or the related tag in it. Now, you can actually narrow down your search options. So, we'll first begin with categories. Depending on your field of study, or the field you teach in, you can search for specific assets related to your field. If you're a biomedical engineer, there's going to be assets for that field. If you're in education, assets for that field. Sports management, there will probably be assets for that field, even if there is rather few, but you will find assets regardless. You also have premium categories. So sites like Discovery and National Geographic, they have a ton of really high quality 3D assets to choose from, both 360 assets and 360 videos. So you have premium categories if you just want to search for those. You can also search for specific, not necessarily academic models, but you can also search for just a lot of basic models in a very unique category. So if you're looking for pets or animals for a nursing or health field, you can search for those. Looking for something relating to engineering, such as cars, you can search for those. If you're looking for music, there will be 3D assets on those. You have a variety of options and categories to choose from to narrow down your search. You also have various types. So if you're looking for a 3D model specifically, but you don't want to search for 360 panoramas or videos, you can just select 3D models. If you want to literally look for 360 panoramas, you can search for those. Looking for a YouTube video, VRtifacts does have those. Even a Vimeo video, you can search for those. There's a lot of, you have specific options to choose from, and you can choose which assets you want to look for with these options. So you're not limited to all of the assets you see. You can narrow them down to find exactly what you're looking for. So continuing on, now on to what the options of the asset are. So once you find the asset that you are looking for and you want to add onto your course, you have 3 options. The first option, which is the plus sign, is add the content onto the course. Very much like a YouTube video, you click on this, you click on the plus, it'll embed the link and the assets into your course for students to click on and view in its entirety. The second option is the copy to clipboard. Each asset has their own unique link to them that leads to their own personal front page where they come from. So you copy the link to the clipboard, and you can put this link into any text-based format, such as announcements or discussion boards where you can't properly embed a VRtifacts link into them. So it's a very useful feature to have if you want to have content into your course, but you want to put it into a field that you can't properly embed it into. And then the last option you have is you can preview the asset itself with the little eye icon. So not feeling confident about it, but you want to preview it beforehand, click on it, and if it's a 3D video, a window will pop up that you can literally click and drag and look at the 3D model in its entirety. If it's a video, it's the typical video player options you have. You can preview it before you add it and make a decision then. If you do like the asset, you click on the plus sign, and this is what it'll look like inside of the course. So it'll be very similar to an embedded YouTube video where it'll mainly be the thumbnail, but if you click on it, it'll open up a window that allows you to view the asset in its entirety. I believe currently there isn't any way to access the direct model, like to go to the respective website where the model is from, so it's more of like another preview thing, like in the VRtifacts interface, but for the time being it is fine because you can still access the raw link by finding it. So you can also edit the options for the VRtifacts asset. It's mainly a lot of basic features. It's mainly a lot of basic functionality for editing a little asset. You can change the name of the asset to something a bit more appropriate to the week that you're teaching in. You can add description to it, like especially for alt text. So if you need to add a few things here or there, you can add it in the description. You can make the content viewable or unviewable at the moment for students. And there's a few other options such as tracking, because you can actually track how many students view the content item. It's a lot of basic features for the moment, but they're hoping to add more in the future. So there are a few considerations to take into account for VRtifacts because it's still very, very new and they're still adding much. The first being that assets are still being tagged. In a repository of over 500,000 assets, it takes time to tag every single one properly. Quality does vary among those assets. We have a bunch of assets to utilize from, but that also means that there will be a discrepancy between an asset that's made by a well-known company, such as Discovery, or an asset that is made by more of a hobbyist. So you'll want to be mindful of finding specific assets that you want to use. Sometimes the lower quality assets may actually be pretty useful for your course because they may be able to give the most basic understanding and basic layout for students to view without it being very cluttered. So there is benefits to using a lower quality asset, but it's best to be mindful that you will find a lot of assets of varying quality. And now something that has been popping up in my research is that a lot of these assets are created by hundreds of thousands of unique creators. So for safety purposes, it is best to cite the author of the asset. It's more of a general courtesy, if anything, but in case anything does pop up relating to copyright or policies, just citing the name of the original creator will help in the long run, and just to give them not only the credit that they deserve for the time it took them to make the asset, but also just for a few other benefits itself.
Does each one come with?
You can
is
find.
that included in the tag, or is there something? Does it have like recommendations, recommended citation? Do you have it?
Recommended citations.
Like usually when you get something off the web, some things have it, some things don't. But if you get something from the government, it'll always say recommended citation, and then you know exactly how to cite it.
There is no recommended citation for the most part, but so long as you just mention
Who the author is.
yeah, just mention who the author is and the site that they are from, such as YouTube or Discovery or.
But that'll show up in VRtifacts if you.
You can
it'll tell you where that came from.
If you add it in, but in the user interface, when you click on the asset, you can actually go to the raw link and the raw website where that asset is
So
from.
it will link it to where it's coming from, where it's being pulled in.
Yes. So it will link to them, but it's not going to pop up right away. That's still one of the missing features of VRtifacts. I think in the future they will hopefully be able to add it, but I'm not sure if they'll be able to do it efficiently, just because of the amount of websites that they are utilizing. So, but again, since we're already on the topic of questions, what other questions does anyone have for me?
So my other question is, and I sort of kind of know this, but if you can't do alt text, you can't. These aren't accessible.
Yeah, that is correct. While you can add a description in a sense, as you saw.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, you can.
It's not going to come with it.
Yes.
It's not going to come.
with it.
It's not going to come with it, unfortunately, because of how it operates.
So
but you
this-
can actually add it, as you see.
Right.
There is the text box, so you can actually add it in there. Like
So
that.
that's important for faculty to know, though. I mean, I'm just talking this out in my head. For them to provide a description of what it is and what they want the student to focus
Yes.
on. Right. Because the screen reader will tell them that. So that has to be filled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is absolutely a very necessary thing for accessibility.
Right.
So it's very good that
Yeah.
that 3Dream did add this feature in where you
Right.
can actually, even if it's very basic, you can change the name of the asset to be a bit more representative of what it
That was
is,
going to be my one.
and the description, as the alt text. Because you won't be able to add it directly into the link because that would be more of something the original author or creator would have to do.
Yeah.
But
But it actually adds something because I don't understand. Are these all video or no?
They are not all
But
video.
I mean, but certainly when they're videos, we want to add some kind of narrative or some kind of statement so that the student knows what to look at. And what to
Usually-
emphasize, right?
That's what I was saying.
And usually in a video that's always the case, because like if you've seen TED Talk YouTube videos, there will always be a description of what the video is. That's not necessarily the same for 3D models, however. So 3D models are a bit more iffy because of how they work. But
it could be like a 3.5 minute video, and you just want them to look at 30 seconds, like to really pay close attention to 30 seconds with the man in the red suit.
Yeah.
Or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
make it real clear.
Yeah.
And what I like about that is then everybody has the same information.
yeah.
Right.
And you can easily add that description or a little notice in the text box.
Right.
So you do have the options for that. But for the most part, yeah, YouTube videos do have those default descriptions, but you can also add your own text on top of it in BB Learn. So that'll help with clarification.
Yeah.
So VRtifacts is basically a more sophisticated way of being able to identify.
Kevin, and you're with what?
Sorry?
And you're where?
I'm a professor of sociology.
Perfect. And so Kevin and Sean.
Sean, I'm communications with Drexel Online.
Oh, there you go.
Carolyn, I'm an instructional designer for school events.
Perfect.
Stephanie Sutcliffe.
High five. It's nice to be in person again.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Okay, we'll get started because we only have 10. It's 52. Let's go. And I'm sure we already missed 2 minutes by just doing. Okay, so what we're about to do is go through 4 ways you can change any course, and it's going to be drinking from a fire hose. So what I did, because I know how that is, you get back to your desk and go, what was it? She said, it was really good, but what was it? There was something someone was doing that, and who said that? Which table was that, right? So I create a handout. If you look in the bottom left corner of the screen, you'll see virtuallyinspired.org/Upick5. All these resources are right here that we're about to talk about and much more. So I took each one of these topics and I did a quick about so you can see kind of what higher ed's doing with that technology. And then I took and created some case studies of each one and resources and tools, as well as some of the latest good articles that are out there. So it's all right, and all of them are linked so that if you go to this web, it's a hidden web page, so if you know Upick5, you'll know where to look. And you can do your own research. So we're going to talk about 4 real quick and then open up for questions. Are you ready to drink from this fire hose? The first one we're going to look at is augmented virtual reality, AVR, mixed any of those realities. They even have XR now, and because people don't know what to call it. They're developing the name as they look. So that might look something like, for the online student, where you have live video, or an object, a panoramic or 360 object right in front of you, and you can manipulate it. So the student at home would just wear some portable glasses. They don't necessarily have to have their own headset or a big expense to do this. So here's 4 quick examples. University of Hamburg has done VR for neurological diseases. So they're working with certain people, in certain cases, elderly people. One of my favorites, University of Florida, they've developed VR for social good, and they let students do projects. This can go across any course. Think about what you teach as applied to your area of discipline. And so, for example, interior design students put on their virtual reality headsets to experience the interior that they designed, but from the perspective of a wheelchair. So I like that. Oral Roberts I mentioned already, and it goes across from sports to mechanics to construction to medical. It hits every different genre. They have a repository very similar to VRtifacts Plus, which has made it easier for instructional designers and instructors to pull it into their courses. Oklahoma State University has a mixed reality lab. So look across Drexel and see where your own wealth of students and support might be. Beyond your area, you might have students that are trying to pull in they're willing to partner because they love building their portfolio if they can help you with different things. You have apps like AnatoMU, the Body VR, InMind that goes through your mind. These are apps that you can do right from your desktop for the online student to reinforce the learning in class. And these glasses have been purchased by Drexel with a Drexel logo, and you can even buy your own on Amazon. They're not very expensive. I've seen them as cheap as $4 a pair. And they fold up, collapse, and you snap it onto your phone, and now you're in this immersive environment. And so that is a quick way to not mess up your hair and be able to have these resources throughout there. Then artificial intelligence, and quite often that's paired with predictive analytics, so I just added that in. Think about what artificial intelligence is not a threat to us as educators, but it is a way that can support us and help us with make our life easier. Take care of the stuff I don't like to do, and let me focus on what I really love. And so that's what it can do. 2 professors at Swinburne University, Swinburne in Australia, they were teaching accounting, and they said, how can we develop using AI and predictive analytics to do adaptive learning so that it would do push notifications, quizzes, kind of like Kahoot but on steroids and much broader, to really engage their students. And they were increasing their students' performance by 12%. And now they turned that platform they created into a resource you can license. So, because other universities across Australia wanted it, and then they realized now we're getting a global response. So they've made Quitch.com available. I don't have time for a video, so we'll go to the next one. Here's the 10 ways. Think about grading, tutoring, and so forth. These are other ways that AI can work for you, depending on what you're grading. And so look at these objects. Like students were using Jill Watson at Georgia State University, not realizing that she was a chatbot. And they were being tutored by artificial intelligence. It took them quite a while to figure it out. Then after they did discover it, that she wasn't a TA, but she was a chatbot, then they liked it better because they weren't scared to ask questions that would make them seem dumb. Gamification simulations, even game-based learning specifically, is a true way to really engage your students, and you can turn any course into a game. You can use games that are already designed to supplement your course and bring home the point that you really want. Now, let's think outside the box. An art teacher at Texas A&M University wanted to create an art history game that would really immerse his students into that time period, whether it was the Renaissance or whatever the time period might be. He partnered with another department in the university, and where he needed a coder and he could do graphic design all day. His students could do that, but they couldn't build a game out of it, so they partnered. They created one of the first games. It was very successful, and they ended up turning into becoming a company called Trizeum, and they sell that course. It's being downloaded all over the world for $29. And the students ended up getting paid that worked on it. And so now it's a partnership between the university and this, the CEO of the company actually is the dean of their school of computer science. So here's some university professors at University of New South Wales, also in Australia, developed a game for Playconomics. They wanted to teach economics, but they wanted to turn it into a video game. And now they created a platform called Uniplay that is turned any game into a video game. And then the other schools across the university said, can you help us build one for taxes? Can you help us build our tax litigation? Can you help us build one for our medical school, etc.? So they did work on those simulators, like a PlayMed simulator. And then they decided to create a company. It's called Lion's Heart Studio, and you can download that app or platform and create your own course game. Turn your own course into a video game. It has all the analytics behind it. You can do all the research to see how the student performance level has increased, etc. Video conferencing is the last one, and real quickly, that is been around for a long time. We've all been doing video conferencing a long time. Let's think a little bit broader. So we know we can use it for blended learning. Did you know you can also use platforms like Shindig, which is available here at Drexel, to bring in 1,000 people, up to 1,000 people at one time, and you can promote any one of the people up to the stage with you. You can also, during that class, break into small groups like we're doing roundtables right now. We can break into online roundtable discussions, but the cool part, unlike Zoom, and I love Zoom, but unlike Zoom rooms, Shindig lets you still stay in the main room and break into your small group. So you can still see the instructor and hear him, and he can say, all right, let's all come back now and share what we just went over. So it makes it real easy to do that. You can, anywhere you have 3G, 4G, any of that available, like the top of a mountain in Canada, students can connect back in and do a video conference live or capture in to do a video streaming from when they're out in the research field. That can be anywhere, field to classroom, even agricultural, construction. You can teach welding. There's multiple ways that they're doing that over video. We love to teach from home or anywhere. What about bringing in expert speakers like Stephen R. Covey, who passed away now, but this was an event that I helped put on with him. You can bring in anyone from anywhere to enrich your course. You can bring in partners. You could do video conferencing internships. You could do video conferencing mentoring, bringing in your alumni. Think of the partnerships you can do with that to strengthen your course. So that's just a good example. Virtually Inspired, if you're not familiar, is available, and that has some of the showcases, and definitely you can connect to Quitch and Uniplay, those platforms, and it'll tell you how, give you more information on it, and see what other professors are doing to enrich their courses. One of the things I think that keeps us from really getting there is, I want to do that, but how much time do I have? I'm already so busy, I'm overwhelmed, I can't add one more thing. That's what your instructional designers are, your design team. I call them personal concierges, because really that's what they're there for, is for you to come to them and say, this is what I'm thinking. And they are keeping up with these technologies and things and say, what do you think about this, 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 or this? So don't let it mentally keep you from, and think outside the box. Put the Drexel spin on this, because while Texas A&M and Swinburne University and University of New South Wales are doing innovative things and creating an entrepreneurship atmosphere, what can Drexel do at the level of Drexel? Think of what that could be. That's it. Time for Q&A. There's your website again, virtuallyinspired.org/Upick5, and download all these resources. Okay, questions?
We'll say, for example,
I told you it was drinking from a fire hose. What are you going to say, Kevin?
Well, as a faculty member, like if I want to do some of this, what do I do? Like, what's the first thing I do? Go to that website?
The first thing you do is think about what you want to accomplish. Look at your own course and say, I really need to increase student engagement here, or where is, don't eat the whole elephant at one time. Think of a small bite and think, if I could just, or this is the one area that students struggle with in my course every quarter. This is where it gets them. How could I gamify it or turn it into a VR experience, or think of what technology or technologies might fit that. Then you go to the instructional design team and say, here's what I think would be where I need some, let's really engage them, because you can grow from there. But if you'll start with that one, what causes the most heartburn for your students? And it could be very simple, where you use artificial intelligence or an app the students are on, and you can very quickly identify what's the part of that they're not getting. And then use that. Even in video stream, simple as starting with recording. You've already recorded that. Go look, if you've streamed it and it's recorded, go look at your analytics and see where they're stopping and rewinding that part of the video. How many times did the students watch that video, that part of the video? This is what they're not getting. Because it will tell you. That's how I would start, is take the big kicker that you want to do and start there, and then you can grow it from there. Does that make sense, Kevin?
It's like that heart video. Just say, oh, here's a cool.
And y'all are all Drexel online? Y'all do this work?
Instructional designer. I mean,
All three of you are?
Oh, no, actually, I'm from the library.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
That's another great resource.
Yes. Who do you teach for?
Sociology.
Sociology, which is what department?
Department of Sociology.
Oh, so that would be COAS? Yeah. Yes. Who's your program director?
Susan Bell is our chair.
Yeah, okay. We've done, Abby would be your, who's doing all
Her
that.
table's
She would be your
next.
instructional designer.
There you go. Meet Abby at the next table.
Yep. Right. Right.
Abby Kelly.
Yeah. But
I just met her this morning
And
myself.
so all the things you showed, Drexel, you have access to?
Yes, Virtually Inspired is online out there. It's open resource. VRtifacts Plus is a repository that's in Blackboard, so it's already easy to bring into your course. Shindig, I don't know if Drexel still has an agreement with them, but they have.
I'm not sure.
I think and the question is, sometimes it's a resource. You don't know what you don't know. There are resources out there that people aren't aware are available. So that's the first place, is saying, if Shindig's still available, use it. If it's not, see what it takes to get it.
Well, I'm always getting phone calls and emails from companies outside offering things.
Yeah,
but
they
it seems
do.
like but some of those things are available here at Drexel already.
Yes.
But I don't have a good sense of what.
That's where.
Okay.
And so that's what y'all help with?
I think we'd have to double. If it's anything that's taught through like a Drexel Online degree, and I know like a lot of the sort of electives and stuff through COAS go that route,
But
then
these
we
would
can
be the
support it.
students who are like in random places.
Yeah.
I have some of that.
Yeah. Was your course fully online that you just taught, or? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are you relatively new to teaching online, or have you been doing it for a while?
Relatively new.
Hello.
And so this was social health class. This is about my third time teaching.
It's funny, like there's a lot that's available. It's just the problem is getting the information out to folks. So, hello, how are you? Do you want to scoot over? All right. So what we're going to talk about today is alternative text. Is this a term that either of you has heard before? Alt text, alternative text? Yes. Okay. That's new to a lot of folks, actually. So if you think about on campus, you think about things like wheelchair ramps or sign language interpreters, things like that we really work towards making everything accessible to every student that wants to come to Drexel, right? Okay. So we have to think about the same thing when we're developing online content. One of the reasons is that it helps all learners. For example, I can hear, but I like to have subtitles on when I'm watching a movie or something like that. So things like that you enhance your course with really helps everybody. The second reason is that it's the law. We want to be ADA compliant, and we want to make sure that everybody who wants to take a Drexel online course can take it and have a comparable experience to every other student. And the last reason to sort of be thinking about this as you're building up your content is that it is so much easier to be aware and build it in ahead of time as you're building stuff up rather than scramble at the last minute. So I'll give you an example. So I'm an instructional designer and I support COAS. And last summer we had a fairly last minute request through OED with a student who was legally blind who wanted to take a certain course. And we had about 6 weeks to get this course completely ready. It was full of like charts and graphs and all kinds of visual information that when we started, the student would never have been able to access. So we really had to scramble, and we got it done, but it was crazy. And if you are aware of this stuff ahead of time, it's pretty easy to build it into your process. So I'm going to talk through something that's a very easy, quick addition to change your digital materials to make them more accessible. We're going to talk about alt text. So this is something that most sighted people will really never experience. It's something that is attached as an image description to every image that you have in Blackboard or in your Word documents or in your PowerPoints. Most sighted people will never see it or experience it, but folks that are visually impaired often use a screen reader technology, which is a software that will read through all the text on a page and describe any images that it sees if there's alt text attached to it. Something you might have seen it from time to time because it's also something that appears in websites. So if you've ever visited a website and like an image won't load, you might have seen text in place of the image. So that's an occasion where you might see, or if like a website's not loading for whatever reason, you might come across some alt text. So that is something where somebody that can see would experience alt text. I'll go at the end. It's literally a 2-click process to add it to most of your documents. It's very simple technically to add alt text, but the real art is writing the alt text itself. So that's what I'm going to focus on today.
So the alt text is just for the pictures?
Yeah, so it's something that you would add to every visual element in your course. So like any photo. So for example, I'll show you examples as we go through this, but it's something that you would attach to all the pictures so that somebody that can't see the pictures will still know what the content of them is.
But the screen reader would read the words.
Yes, yeah, so it would, like, the point of the alt text is to give the screen reader something to read.
Okay.
So that's where you would want to think about, exactly, so that they'll have access to the exact same content content that somebody who can see the image. Yep.
Right. As you described it, the image that comes up in my mind is, you know, when you put on a movie, and then you go through, you put it, you know how you choose the different languages?
Yeah.
And you choose one that describes everything.
Yes.
The man is hanging on the mountain, the rain is running down his face, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, very same concept, same idea. Actually, there's a name for that type of subtitle. I forget what it is,
There
but
is a
yeah.
name, but I just remember being on that, clicking on that roll by mistake. And I'm
Yeah.
like, he saw.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is something where, and there's a lot of like sort of common mistakes people make as they're trying to understand the concept of this. A lot of folks will write like image of such and such. You don't need to do that. The screen reader will give them a heads up that it's an image. A lot of folks like leave the file name in or something like that by accident. You don't need to do that. Something that I notice a lot when I'm helping folks go through materials for alt text is there's a lot of, you know, clip art and borders and things like that. So there's a lot of like visual clutter. I try to cut down on that as much as possible, but if there's things that you really want to include visually and you know that they're not really germane to the content, there's ways to mark them as a null image. So just look up like how to, I think it's like 2 quotes or something in a row, so the screen reader will just literally skip it. So if it's content that doesn't really matter, because I'll reference a website in a moment that I highly recommend that's a really good resource for this, but if you look at a simulator for a screen reader to get an idea of what a visually impaired person might be experiencing, for example, if you have a bunch of blank spaces in a Word document, we're not going to see that, but the screen reader will go space, 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 and it slows things down and it's kind of unpleasant. So you just want to cut down on anything that's irrelevant to what you're trying to teach. And last but not least, you really want to consider the context of what you're trying to convey. And I'll show some examples that will kind of illustrate this a little bit better. This basically reiterates what I just said. This is from the website that I was talking about, webaim.org. It's web accessibility in mind. It's got a wealth of resources. It has simulators. There's all kinds of really cool stuff there to really give you a sense of what folks might be facing as they're trying to learn this content. And there are things like different learning disabilities that you might not be thinking about that really affect somebody's abilities to absorb information. So it gives you a good picture of what to be dealing with. And again, the screen reader will read out loud whatever you put into it. It can't interpret anything. It's just gonna literally read the words that you put in. So that's where really the art of when you're teaching a course, you think about what am I trying to convey with this image.
And I imagine that, you know, when people write novels, they're very descriptive and they want to bring you to the experience. That type of skill set would probably go well.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have, are you employing writers to kind of build this type of...
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing where, and like as an instructional designer, I work with folks that have all sorts of different content, and I can describe any image, but I don't know if I'm going to describe it the same way that you might to like a classroom full of students. So that's something where really the content expert is the person who is going to decide what they want this image to be saying in the context of their class. So here's an example. So this is something that might appear in a course, and the text below it is maybe a caption that might appear. So on the right are a few choices for different options for alt text. And there is no right or wrong answer, there's just what makes this the best fit for my content.
So then it's like creative choices.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you present from audio standpoint?
Right, and like maybe I might eliminate maybe the first one because just George Washington doesn't really add anything. Like, what's the point, you know?
It's interesting because people think in images. You know, so if I say hat, that might mean something totally different in my mind than
exactly.
What it means to you. I might be thinking baseball cap, you might be thinking sombrero.
Right.
So it's like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, and maybe in your course it matters what kind of hat, maybe it doesn't. So that all kind of plays into the decision.
So like if I'm teaching like intro to sociology, I sometimes show pictures of the researcher, the scholar, the writer.
Okay.
And so you just would say their name. This is a picture.
Yeah, exactly. In that context, yeah, exactly. And if there was anything else about the image that you wanted to talk about, you would include that. But if not, yeah, you just say, you know, here's Karl Marx. So here's another, and again, no right or wrong. It's just, what does this image mean to me in the context of my content?
And then
I like A. B, I don't understand what. I'm not into shoes.
Right, right.
That particular brand.
Yeah, exactly. But then what if we were in a situation where it was actually like the history of sneaker culture or something like that? Then you would go, yeah, exactly. So it really depends. It really depends.
Can you do rusty passport? Is that really what it is? Image of blue. Oh, bug. I misread it. Image of bug on dollar purple flower. But if you were just having like a random picture in your slide, that would work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then if you're in like, I don't know what type of class would be looking at bees and plants. They exist.
Right.
And I guess it's really the significance of what you want people to get, even from the image.
Yes, exactly.
If you put that picture on the screen and someone's able to see it, it may conjure different responses based on what they say. Hey, I remember when I was young and I got stung by a bee. That's a negative thing. Or I love bees because honey is my favorite. You know, people thinking different things about the same image.
Yeah.
It encourages you to be mindful of why you're including what you're including.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's something, yeah.
Lecture.
Yeah, I see that quite a bit, and it's something like, especially if you're kind of going through old stuff and you're kind of like, oh wait, why is this here? So it does help you kind of clarify your thinking, even, and again, like this is something where I always like to go back to, like, this really does help all learners, and it helps you as the instructor, because you kind of have to really think about why you're including this, what do I want to mean by it, that kind of a thing.
So I teach face-to-face classes and online, but then you can use this for both.
You can, yeah.
And I actually had a student in my face-to-face class who was legally blind, and she just to take like online quizzes. She came to my office, taught me how to do the settings so that she could take it.
Right.
But then this is something that, but there are services that.
So for on-campus students, like, so for example, maybe if I'm working with OED and I'm trying to have them go through this lecture and it's an on-campus student, maybe they just have somebody who literally sits with them and describes the images. So this is sort of taking the place of that for online students who can't access on-campus services. Yeah, exactly. But it's the same idea where it's just your goal is to make sure that all of your students are able to get equivalent information. So I'm going to skip through because I just want to show you guys very quickly that it is a 2-click process to add this to your documents. All you have to do is go to the Format Image window.
Just as Word.
Yeah, so I don't know if you're on PC or Mac, it looks a little bit different. Yeah. So it's just in the little top ribbon. There's an alt text little.
And you just click it?
You just click it.
And then what happens?
Then it'll show you, the box comes up, so it has a little box for alt text, and you just enter whatever you want to enter. Yeah, so it's something it's easy to incorporate as you're developing
stuff. What if
stuff.
you're on a PowerPoint or something?
On PowerPoint, you can do it as well, on the last one.
Oh.
Yeah, so, no, you're fine. So it's always the Format Image menu.
Oh.
And there's also an option within Blackboard when you're adding images. There's an alt text box in that menu as well. That's what it means. Yeah.
So this capability has always been there.
It's always been there, and we just
on Office products.
Yeah, on Office products. Yep. Yeah, and there are additional tools in Office. There's in each one, and actually in PDF as well. There's something called an accessibility checker, where you just activate it and it'll run through the document and it'll give you a list of so here are all the images that need alt text. So that is actually a good shortcut to go through. So it'll just give you a menu and you can click through and do each image or whatever else. So it'll indicate to you what the problems are. And I don't know if you guys have visited the ally table yet, but that's great. That's going to help you guys a lot. They're sort of rolling out more capabilities, but that's an accessibility checker inside Blackboard that will go through all your documents, and it has very easy to read sort of colored dial, like red, orange, or green, and it'll show you what percentage, it'll look at your PowerPoint, it'll look at your Word documents, and it can indicate where the issues are. So that's another checker that you can use.
And so I guess you can use this to just kind of identify what images already have text.
Yeah. But something that I would do if it's, so for example, maybe you're working with a PowerPoint that you got from somebody else or something like that, even if the images already have text, I would still go through them just to see what it says and make sure that you're happy with what it says. Like, because the accessibility checker doesn't check for content, obviously, because that's something that it can't. So that's something that you really want to think about and make sure that you're happy with what it shows you. But yeah, the accessibility checkers are really handy, and you can sort of have them open as you're even building up a document. So that's another tool that's available, and it'll just help identify everything for you.
And where do you access the accessibility checker?
So it's different on Mac and PC, I believe. Do you use a PC or a Mac? Oh. All right then. I think in the Mac it's on Word. I think it's also in the top ribbon somewhere, in like the file review or something like that. And so you can it'll be just a button that says accessibility checker. And what it does, it'll just go through the document. It'll pop up a menu on the right-hand side that you can just click through. And it'll identify, there's other things, I could go into great detail, but some other things that it might check is if you have a really long document, it wants you to use like the heading structure that Word makes available, because that helps a screen reader jump around if the person wants to. So like, let's say they just want to go from heading to heading. Like if it's a super long document with no headings, it will flag it, stuff like that. Yeah.
I had to do that for my dissertation. It took forever.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to bring this session to a close for those who are joining us. For those who are joining us through streaming video, I want to close this session out. I want to say thanks to all of the presenters. Really, you just did a phenomenal job today. And for all of us who had the great fun of the speed dating process to go through each of the sessions today, they were informative, they were interesting, and it really allowed us to sample some great ideas that we want to get more information on. So you have the names of the presenters. You also have the schedule for the upcoming meetings. We look forward to seeing you at the next town hall on May 2nd, which will profile faculty research presentations. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks again.